Oh, the ginger's on fire today. What's going on, guys? It's your boy Sydney here with you on a Friday morning. It's a little bit wet out before, but it's shaping up nicely. So today I wanted to talk to you about something very interesting. It's called Universal Basic Income, and for those of you who haven't heard of Universal Basic Income, it is literally that. Oh, what's up, underdog? That's for you, buddy. How you doing? Good to see you, Uncle Baldy. So Universal Basic Income is basically
in 400 meters, use the right two lanes to turn right.
Alright, cool. That's all sorted. Yeah, so basically Universal Basic Income is literally what it says, a universal basic level income that's paid to everybody. And everyone just gets free money. Alright, we don't need to work because, you know, everyone can just get a universal basic income. Oh, what about those privileged white men, you say? Oh, well, they've got plenty of money. They don't need a universal basic income. Well, it's funny, right? Because what are you going to spend your universal basic income on? Let me get to the fundamentals first of why this concept is not going to work, and then we can dig into all the semantics. So the reason why it's so ridiculous is because in order to give money, right? Let's say, for example, if I'm broke, I have $0 in the bank. I don't have any money to give you, right? So I can't give you money. So I either need to do one of two things. I need to either get money or like make money or borrow it to give to you. Borrowing money to give to you when I don't have a source of income is a terrible idea, because I'm just going to go more and 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 more in debt, to the point where I'm basically completely financially incapacitated, and people are coming after me with knives and torches and spears and guns, because I've taken so much of their money and they want it back and I can't give it to them, and now they're really pissed off. And so what happens when they say, well, you have no money and you owe us money, so we're going to take all your shit? It's kind of a problem when you're a country and you're in that situation, because that means you basically are owned by other countries now, fundamentally. Not legally, of course, but you know, when you start to go down that route, recovery action starts to take place, shit's going down. It's like when Greece ran out of money. Now let's have a look at how one would get money if they don't borrow it. Oh, I know. I'll just get a universal basic income. Oh wait, I'm the one that has to pay that. I'm the one that has to pay that to people, because the people that are getting the money from me don't want to give me anything. They just want to get stuff. Oh shit, I actually need to make money now. I actually need to generate an income. But that means I have to work. That means I have to do something constructive that people are prepared to pay for. Damn capitalism. So now, geez, I've got a bit of a dilemma as a country, because I actually need to do something. I actually need to generate an income to pay the people that don't want to generate an income. Oh dear. I'm in quite a dilemma, because what I need to do rails completely against what I want to do. But let's never let facts and practicality get in the way of some good feelings, hey? Let's not let that happen. That'd be totally irrational. So, and here's the thing, right? I know, for example, in Finland with their universal basic income trials, even if you started earning money, you still got a basic income. And I'm like, what? Whose fucking stupid idea was that? Whose stupid idea? It's the most ridiculous idea I've ever heard of. Well, actually, no. A I've heard some more ridiculous ideas, but the ideas that are generally put forward by the same people that think that universal basic income is a fantastic idea. Oh, and what happens to all those black people that have got successful businesses? What happens to all those women that have got successful businesses? Oh, now they're being victimized. Right now this is happening. Right now these women and these black people don't need to work. Think they're just going to hang up their hat and put themselves on the same playing field as everyone else? You think men are going to do the same? Hell no. All of the victim classes that aren't actually victims, right, that don't play the victim, are not going to want to buy into this bullshit. And Riff Magos, I have not noticed the Marxism posters around these days. If you see any, I would love for you to take a photo and email those to me. That would be really cool. And also, very good point, Riff. What happened to living within our means? Learning good budgeting and not expecting handouts from everyone all the time. It's not difficult. You work, you earn, you budget well, you spend less than you make. Seemingly great concept, right? And I mean, for those who don't earn a big income, right? Rather than actually saying, well, what can I do to earn more income? They just want to turn around and say, oh, well, I don't earn a good income and it's everyone else's fault, so give me free money. No, that's a shitty idea. Why should the people who have money give money to you because you're useless? Because you did a gender studies degree? Right? Because you're a self-proclaimed socialist or Marxist. Riff Magos, if you see any of those photos in Wollongong, please send them to me, brother. I will do a video on that and get that to the people who need to get this out in the open. Whatever my work says, women and minority business owners aren't victims. They are people who didn't sit at home and demand handouts, so the political left must punish them. That's right, but they do fall under the victim groups, right? Because women are victims, right? Just ask the left. Just ask any fat feminist who did a gender studies degree and now is working as a barista and is upset because they're fat, even though they haven't exercised a day in their life. Right? Just ask the black people who are on intergenerational welfare, right? If they're the victims or not. Of course they are. Most of them will say, oh, you know, this is unfair, it's inequality. No, you can actually make a change. You can actually make a change in your life, make decisions that benefit you, but you choose not to. Right? For those people who choose not to, I say you choose not to, and there's nobody's fault but your own. And Sunset MGTOW says, that's why I get tired of MGTOW content creators talking about Trump. The United States is 20 trillion in debt. If he was such a threat to the elite, he wouldn't have got elected. Well, that's true. But you hear all of the people, all of the university students are screeching about shit that they don't even know about. But they're carrying on going, oh, Trump is such a misogynist. It's like, okay, well, what did he do? Oh, he said that, you know, you should grab girls by the pussy. And it's like, no, that's not what he said. Who told you that's what he said? Oh, that's what I heard. Where did you hear that? On Facebook from another idiot? Really raises some question marks, doesn't it? But this is just the absolute stupidity. What is this number plate? It's weird. Oh, South Australia. Makes sense. And look, here's the thing, right? And Sunset MGTOW just pointed out the United States is $20 trillion in debt. Can you imagine if the whole of the US stopped working? Just not going to work today, but I'll take my universal basic income, thank you very much. What are you even going to spend that on? Because if nobody's working to produce things, then you have nothing to spend your money on, right? If the government owns all the houses, well, shit, why don't you just put that as part of the universal basic income? The government will just give you a bunch of houses and they'll give you a bunch of money and you don't have to do anything. Oh, but what about when something happens? What about when there's a hurricane and a massive tree gets smashed through your roof, right? Ripped up by the wind and thrown through the side of your house? Who's gonna pay for that, right? Who's gonna pay for that? Who's gonna pay for your roof to be fixed? Oh, come on, whoever dickhead. Who's gonna pay for your roof to be fixed? And better still, who's gonna fix the roof? Because no one works anymore because everyone's got free money. So who's gonna pay for that roof to be fixed, and who's gonna fix the roof? Oh, yeah, we'll just let fucking the universal basic income fix that for us, no problem. And Tyledon says, I'd assume the insurance company would get involved. What insurance company? There's no one working at the insurance company because they're all getting their basic income. So the insurance company doesn't function. Doesn't make any money. And because everyone gets a basic income, why do they need insurance? Shit, hey, or just, you know, if anything happens, we'll just keep using the money we get for free to pay for it. We don't need to worry about income insurance because the income's there forever, for free. We don't need to lift a finger. Oh, wait, I'm feeling kind of hungry right now. I'm just gonna go down to the shops. Oh, that's right. There's nobody at the shops. Nobody at the shops. Nobody's working. Nobody opened the shop today. Right, nobody's there to fill the shelves with the food that we want to buy. So now you've got all this money. You've got this universal basic income. You've got a free house that's broken. You've got no obligations, but you're hungry. So no one's feeding you. No one's fixing your shit. No one's repairing your TV when it breaks. No one's on TV because nobody's working. Tyledon, I don't know exactly what you're getting at here. What I'm pointing out is that if everyone's on a universal basic income with no requirement to work, then nobody's going to want to work. Right? Why would anyone want to work if they get their money for free? Right? And if no one's working, then there's no insurance companies, there's no contractors, there's no people producing food, there's no people at the shops, there's no people building electrical plants. Tyledon, I don't know where you came from because I haven't seen you on my streams before, but I feel like you're not really grasping the whole concept. Because if you're giving out free money to everybody with no obligation, like for example, in Australia, right? We need to, and here's the thing as well, Tyledon, this is something else you haven't thought of, right? And I understand what you're saying, right? That not everyone would be on UBI. But when more people are encouraged to not work because they just go, oh fuck, you know, it's too much headache. I'm spending $200 a week on petrol and tolls and tires and insurance and servicing on my car alone. And then I'm spending $6 a day on coffee, and I'm spending $15 a day on lunch. I'm spending $20 a day, roughly a day on lunch. I'm spending $100 a week. So by this time you're up to $300 a week. What if you only make $500-600 a week? And what if the basic income is $400 a week? You're $200 a week better off not to work. Right? Okay, employers would pay more to compete with UBI as an alternative. Who's going to give the employers the extra money to pay this extra income to compete with the UBI alternative? Who's going to pay the employers the extra money to pass on to their employees? the people on the universal basic income that's being funded by employees and employers that pay tax, right? So taxes are going to go up because revenue goes down. The employers would get money from those employers. Then the employers would get money from those employing them using their UBI. So if you've got an employer that employs 500 people and that employee is getting a UBI of maybe, say, let's call it $500 a week. What, you think that the extra $1 a week that that employer gets is going to cover the increase in wages to incentivize people not to go on a UBI? Taldon, you're proving my point, buddy. Like, no disrespect, but you're not thinking about this. And you said you're assuming that UBI recipients would just burn all their money. They won't. They'll spend that money. Every dollar spent is also received by businesses. Yes. But if there's no incentive for people to work, then people don't go to work. And when the people do go to work, right, they're going to say, well, if you want me to work, I want a lot more money. And if they want a lot more money, then they're going to have to get paid a lot more money. And the employer is not going to be able to pay them. Like, the employer is not going to get, you know, an extra $200-300 a week in basic income per employee. Right? So if you've got, say, 500 employees and they want an extra $200 a week each, right? So you've now got $100,000 a week you've got to pull out of your ass as an employer. Am I assuming inflation would go up or down? So what do you want, Taldon? Do you want inflation to basically fall through the floor because the economy is in collapse? Or do you want it to, I mean, I'd love inflation to stabilize. I think that's what would be ideal, but we don't live in an ideal world. We don't live in a leftist utopia where everything's just perfect all the time. I'm just being real about this. Right? And Ken says, why work when the government can print money? Well, here's the thing. The government have printed money in some third world countries. So now you've got countries where, you know, hundreds of thousands or even millions in their currency is worth maybe $10. What's going on, bro?
Not much, bro. I got my license again.
Ah, sucks. Yeah. Hey man, I gotta go. I'm just doing my video.
Huh?
I'm just doing my video. I'm doing a couple of friends of mine. So yeah, Ken says, why work when the government can print money? It's a great question. Well, when they're printed, like, you look at, you know, places like India, you look at places like Philippines, right? 1,000 pesos in the Philippines is about $30 Australian. This is what happens when the government prints too much money. Right? When there's more of something, it becomes worth less. It's like, you know, as MGTOW, there's more women out there that are prepared to have sex for free and basically not require any financial remuneration. They just enjoy it. Well, then the price of pussy is devalued. I'm sorry, it's just how it is. MGTOW Kushite says, it'd break the economy to pieces. Investment will leave, putting the country at a disadvantage to where they'd have to borrow the money from suspect banks. That's exactly right. Venezuela's up the shithole as well because of printing money. Taldon says, I'm just asking how you arrived at your conclusions and how you're only appealing to doomsday scenarios that you haven't substantiated. Taldon, you seem to be completely ignoring human behavior and how humans tend to gravitate towards things that are easier, taking the path of least resistance. Like, let's say, Taldon, you said to me, okay, You got to go to work this morning. You've got the option of going two ways. One of those ways you could go is via this particular route, which is a longer distance and has a huge amount of traffic, and it's going to take you about an hour and a half to get there. Or you could take a different route, which is shorter and only takes you half an hour. Which way do you think I'm going to take, Tildon? Which way do you think I'm going to take? Don't discount. Like you're actually I really feel like you're discounting the intelligence of human beings that are able to think for themselves. Right? So it's only a matter of time before people say, "Oh, well, I can't be bothered working. Why would I bother working? Why would I bother getting up in the morning?" Because expenses are going up, right? Especially in Sydney, tolls are going up, petrol's expensive, public transport's getting more expensive, lunches are getting more expensive, right? Everything that you need to do in order to get to work to make an income is getting more expensive. So if I could get $200 a week less than what I pay at the moment and have government funded housing, I'm about $400 or $500 a week better off. But what's that you say? You shouldn't be better off under your universal basic income if you're already working. It's like, well, okay, well, why do I have to work to pay for those that don't? Right? Why aren't I allowed? Why can't I go on the universal basic income? Right? How is it fair that I can't go on it, but you can? See what I'm saying? You said, now you're assuming that all money distributed by the government is from expansion of the money supply. No, I'm not assuming that at all, but I'm just saying there is a finite amount of money. And, you know, the government needs to actually pay for things such as roads and healthcare and education. And what happens if the government gives all of its money, or, you know, no one's actually making any money, right? So you've got to understand cash flow. I can tell you're not an economist, Tildon. So let's say, for example, you make $500 a week, right? And you then give that $500 a week out. Okay, you've just scraped through the week. Right? You've fed yourself, you've housed yourself, you've paid the bills. You're on poverty's door, but everything's paid for, and you're still okay. You're still living. Well, what happens when you've got to pay $500 the next week, and yet your income goes down? And your income continues to go down because part of the whole point of the tax system is that as people make money, the government makes money. As people create an income for themselves, the government gets income. Right? So business owners are not going to pay more to employees, right? Because there's always going to be someone that's going to work for market rate, right? We've seen this with people being even below market rate. We've seen this with people getting exploited, working cash in hand. Right? You can't control. Right? You can't just say, well, this is what's going to work, and I say so. So therefore it's going to work, and there's nothing you can do about it because my idea is the best idea. It doesn't work like that. Tiled on how would petrol become more expensive? Well, let's say, for example, they implement universal basic income in the US and Australia, for example. Let me ask you a question. Where does that oil come from? Who runs the refineries? Right? And the less of something people are buying, right? Like if the oil refineries want to make the same amount of money and their volume gets halved because no one's going to work and no one's using their cars, then they need to charge twice as much margin in order to make the same amount of money. Right? Eventually they're just going to go, well, you know, screw you, I'm going to charge whatever the hell I want. And if these people in universal basic income want to go anywhere, then they're just going to have to damn well pay it. And then what happens, and also, you've then got a situation where the people that are working, well, shit, now they're working, right? And their taxes have gone up because more people are on universal basic income than ever before. Fewer people are working than ever before. Employers are shutting down left, right, and center because they're having to pay more to their employees that do work. Even the employees that do work, everything's going up in price because, well, shit, everyone can afford it because everyone's got a universal basic income, right? That's the concept. I just don't feel like you're looking at the full picture at all. Money supply is finite. However, transactions velocity of money is not. I know that. But I can tell you've been to university, Tildon. I can tell you've been to university. Why is nobody using cars with UBI? Well, people are using cars with UBI, Tildon, but they're not driving as much because they're not going to work. Right? Makes total sense, actually, that the usage of cars goes down significantly. What other comments have we got here? All banks in the world would be effective massively because everyone would be borrowing off everyone, and whoever it is that is owed most of the money will then essentially have the power to come in and take what it is that doesn't belong to them. Well, it's like if an entire country, right? Socialism doesn't work, period. Just doesn't work because of human nature. And then no tiled on so the demand for oil plummets while the supply remains the same. Yeah, so this is the thing. You know, you don't know which way it's going to go. But you also haven't accounted for the fact that there are so many women in the workforce, right? What happens when these particular individual women decide, well, why should I go to work now? I'm just going to stay at home and have a family. And I've got all the time in the world because I've got a basic income that pays for everything. So I don't actually need to work. I don't ever need to support myself. You know, and because it's universal basic income, right? Well, let's get rid of the child support, shall we? No child support. All right, Taldon. He says, I'm not saying UBI would work. I'm just stating that your conclusions are unsubstantiated and based on contradictory premises. Well, I'm not going to spend the next 10 years doing studies on whether universal basic income would be a failure or not to know that it would be a failure. Right? It wouldn't work at all. It wouldn't work for so many reasons. And some of the reasons are the reasons that I stated. The reasons that I posited. You know, free money is never a good idea. At all. Man, I could use a nap right now. Anyway, guys. Just something to think about. This is why it's so important that we need to that we really need to stop leftists from taking over. Yeah, you're right, MGTOW guy. The future of automation is making things less black and white. But, you know, maybe we need to stop migration, or at least slow it. Stopping it is probably not the best idea, but slow it. So many companies don't have pensions anymore. That's right. It's tough out there. And unless you go and take all the houses off every single person who owns it in a Western country, then you're never going to be able to implement socialism in its fullest form. The government would literally have to take everything off everyone and redistribute it. It's the only way it would work. It's the only way it would work. I'm telling you right now. And even with automation, there's still people that need to actually create the automation. There's people that need to distribute what it is that the automation is creating. You can't tell me that something's going to go from seed to garden to plant, grow, be detected as perfectly grown, taken out of the garden, put into, you know, a big collection bin that they use to put like fruit and vegetables in, and then driven to the distributor, then packaged, then moved by hand to the next location. You can't automate that whole process. You can only automate certain things. Typically, you can automate stuff that's largely in the same place. Yeah, I know logistics are getting more smart now, but you still need human interaction. And 9/11 Nomad, what happened to all those other green jobs Obama and all the leftists were speaking about years ago? Oh, thank you so much, Satanic MGTOW, for that very kind donation. I appreciate you, brother. Right? In Africa, what's happened is the government has basically said, well, all these white people are so privileged, so therefore I'm going to take your shit. Right? Literally saying, I am going to take... The government literally took all the farms. Government literally took all the farms off the white farmers and gave it to black people. It's like, well, that's cool. Great idea. It's fine. I have no problem with that. But then what happens? When nobody's making anything on farms anymore, or the produce is nowhere near enough to sustain gross domestic product. Yeah, exactly, Ronacade. It's exactly what's going on, you know. And Ronacade, I genuinely think that's, particularly with what's going on in South Africa, a lot of it is there's been this whole victimhood mentality that the white people came in and took from the blacks. And look, I'm not denying that there may be some cases where there's been some, you know, taking advantage of others. For sure. I mean, that's just human nature. There's always going to be some people that do something like that. But I really think what's going on in South Africa is more than just white jealousy. They actually believe that white people have taken from them, and that if the black people have everything, have the things that the white people have, then they'll be able to be completely independent of themselves. And that they'll be able to be completely self-sufficient without the need for, you know, these white farmers. And you know, if you've been following what's going on, Ronacade, in South Africa, Ronacade, I don't know if you were born in a Western country or if you were born in Africa, but like anyone who's been following South Africa knows that it turned out to be a complete mess, right? There was a shortage of food. You know, everything was basically going to shit. You know, primary produce was just falling through the floor. Gross domestic product was just non-existent practically, right? People were going starving because there wasn't enough food being created by the farmers, by the white farmers that weren't there anymore. And now they're begging the white farmers to come back. And you watch, they'll beg the white farmers to come back. There'll be a couple of suckers that go back. But the rest are going to go like, nah, fuck that. I know what happens. And then what happens after that is, after a while of the white farmers coming back and flourishing again and starting to do well and starting to hire more people, you're going to have the same socialists, you're going to have the same SJW retards come in and say, oh, you know, you've got all this white privilege, you've got all these white farmers have got all this money in our land, and, you know, it's not fair. And they're going to come in and they're going to take the farms again. What incentive is there for anyone to go back? It's getting about that time. It's getting about that time. Kenny Clark says they'll cannibalize each other without white farmers. Exactly. Exactly right. I had a feeling you were born in America, Rono, by the way. Very articulate. Mark Cohen says, what do you think best explains the disparity in incomes between the races in South Africa and the US? And whatever might work, says leftists think people have, because they took from others, that they don't comprehend the hard work and industry the source of wealth. And thank you so much for that kind donation, 9/11 Nomad. I appreciate you. MGTOW guide, I'm not high, I'm just tired, brother. I'm just tired. But Mark Cohen, what do you think best explains the disparity in incomes between races in South Africa and US? Look, in my view, Mark Cohen, there's no question, to me personally, there's no question that there definitely has been, you know, a lack of educational opportunities for a lot of black people. You know, there's been so much bitter fighting, so much violence in Africa, particularly in the north, where there's a lack of education and there's a lack of understanding of how the world works and what makes a world work well. So what I would say is that South Africans, North Africans, Africans in general, you know, they're getting more educated. They're becoming more aware, particularly a lot of people that have come from overseas are starting to sort of say, well, like, for example, families that go overseas are starting to educate the people that are still there at home. Sorry guys, I'm just obviously making sure that... Alright, now. But yeah, there's, you know, Africans are becoming more and more educated as time goes. Are becoming more and more educated, for sure, no question. And as that happens, there's more and more primary produce. Hang on. There's more and more primary produce. And as there's more and more primary produce, then there's more and more money coming in. You know, there's a lot of very successful African farmers now, you know, because they've used their brains, they've used their diligence, you know, they work hard. Rono says, sadly, a lot of black people do want to be victims, but then again, there's a lot of black people that don't want to be victims. There's a lot of black people that are very hard workers, and I respect that. You know, and I respect anyone who's a hard worker, whether they're white, whether they're black, whether they're male, whether they're female, whether they're a person of color or a white person. Satanic MGTOW, thank you again for that kind donation. Says we should make our countries unsafe for social Marxists, communist, fascists. They're trying to erode our rights, so we should erode their safety. Well, unfortunately, the government won't let us do that. Unfortunately, they won't let us do that. Anyway, guys, look, I think I'm gonna make myself a, what do we got here? Gonna get into this. Sydney's gonna, damn son, oh, what have we got here? What do we have here? Yeah, that's Sydney's coffee mug. That's Sydney's coffee mug. You know it. This is how I prep for my morning. And I don't use this, it's disgusting. Anyway, guys, it was really good to see you this morning. It was interesting to have that the conversation with Tiled on, and a couple of other people were very thought-provoking, but I think we're all pretty much on the same page. the universal basic income is a really bad idea long term. Yeah, look, it might be handy for some people that are disabled, like genuinely disabled, like I'm talking wheelchair, or you know, if they've lost an arm or something. But even then, some of those people are going to want to work. But over time, people will actually start to cotton onto the idea that maybe working's not benefiting them in the way that they wish it would, and they want to return to sort of like a chill lifestyle where they can just kick it at home and spend time with their kids. Rono, hardworking, good. That's good, brother. I appreciate that. I respect that. You know, good man. And I respect all of you other men that are hard workers and that work hard, that earn your money, that keep it for yourself and spend it on things that you should spend it on, not the things you shouldn't spend it on, if you know what I'm saying. Sir Cryptimus Prime, I love your name, buddy, and thank you for the kudos. And yeah, you're right, Media Magnet. Coffee does always taste better in a mug like this. Always tastes better in a mug like this. And if you want to get one of these mugs, just head on over to MGTOWmerch.com and you'll be able to find it nice and easy. All right, guys, I'm going to bounce for now. But if you ever want to donate, you can donate in the chat here. You can also donate on patreon.com/sydneymgtow. Would prefer that you don't donate by PayPal at the moment, just because they're giving me some headaches with verifying my identity and not letting me withdraw. Fortunately, I got most of the money out of there before that happened, but some of it's stuck in limbo. And yeah, I'll see you guys this afternoon or tomorrow. Appreciate you all. Kenny Clark's been working hard since he was 13. Good man. On that note, peace.